there was one Best Picture nominee that I needed to see to round out all of the nominees to make sure that I'm as well researched as possible before the Academy Awards. And that film was American Fiction. I finally checked it out, and here are my thoughts. Let's get into it. First and foremost, I think it was a big mistake on my part to see this pretty much the day after I saw Dune Part 2. I like this movie. If I'm coming out of this just talking about the movie as a whole, I think it is charming enough. It is a very interesting satire that talks about something that I think a lot of people think, but can't articulate as well as this. If you don't know what American Fiction is about, as I mentioned, it is a satire about an African American man writing a novel that embraces all of the stereotypes in black culture, and white people soak it up and think it's this really groundbreaking thing. And it's kind of a satire on the fact that a lot of people will only engage with black stories if they are just about them suffering and going through a lot of the racial bigotry that America has seen over centuries now. Jeffrey Wright, our protagonist, is a really intelligent individual who is kind of sick of being put into a box like that. He just wants to be recognized, I guess, as a human being, which is all that anyone can really ask for and want. And I just found it really interesting the way they approach this story. It can be quite funny. Nothing laugh out loud hilarious. I thought it could have gotten into those heights, but it just never did. But it was overall just charming and light enough where it's a pretty breezy watch overall. This movie got 5 Academy Award nominations: Best Picture, Best Lead Actor, Best Supporting Actor for Sterling K. Brown, Best Adapted Screenplay, as well as Best Original Score. Now, 4 of those I can understand the nominations. The score one I don't. I think the score is very forgettable and very generic, so I don't really understand the nomination there. It's one of the weaker points to this film. I think the screenplay is exceptionally quite strong, and the performances to me were actually the real standout of this from the entire ensemble. But yeah, the 2 that got nominated were definitely the highlights of this film. Jeffrey Wright is fantastic in this film. He has churned out so many excellent performances in the past. He's one of my favorite actors to watch. His voice is amazing. And in this, he's really given a beefy role, something to do here that's a little bit more than what a lot of us are used to. We usually see him in a supporting capacity. And in this, he's given a lot to do, and I really appreciate that. And he got to flex his acting chops a lot more here, which I really appreciated watching. I think he adds a lot to this film. The character is overall someone who is quite frustrated with life, and I think a lot of us can relate to some of the scenarios that he is put into. And I really, really appreciated the nuances in this character and the way that this film presented that. Sterling K. Brown was a complete surprise for me. I love this guy as an actor too. I'm a big fan of Waves, and that performance was incredible. I wasn't expecting him to do so much in American Fiction, but he's kind of the heartbeat of this film. Every scene in this has a lot of depth. He can be really funny one minute and heartbreaking the next. I think a lot of people are going to really connect with his performance if you haven't already. And he just adds a lot to this film. It's pretty much all you can ask for in a supporting performance. So I definitely understand the nomination there. So here's where I go into some of my flaws with this film. And I think it's just because of the expectations that have been placed upon it due to all the awards attention. This has been kind of a shocker pretty much since it won the People's Choice Award at TIFF. No one expected that, but as soon as it got that, everyone, including myself, instantly recognized that, okay, it probably is going to be an Oscar contender, and it has. Watching the movie though, I don't quite understand why it's gotten all these awards. It's a good movie, it's a solid movie, but to me it doesn't go beyond that. I think overall the film is far too breezy. I think it makes for a nice watch, but it's easily disposable and something that I think a lot of us aren't really going to be talking about a few years from now. It's one of those films that kind of just got in because there were 10 slots, I think. Once again, that doesn't take away from the film's quality. It's a good movie. I do like aspects of it, but it's too breezy, and I think it's too airy-fairy with its point in the first half of this film. I was kind of thinking it's not really going for what I thought it was from the trailers and what it was presenting. And then when we got into the second half, it kind of maintained a lot of focus, and that's when it picked up a lot of steam until it reached a pretty disappointing ending in my eyes. And the film is very self-aware about the nature of its ending. But just because you're self-aware of it doesn't mean that it's suddenly absolved of these issues. I still think it's a weak ending regardless of the fact that it has been acknowledged in the film. I understand if a lot of you were quite charmed by this movie and are probably upset about some of these comments, but once again, I'm looking at it like what it has been placed into, a Best Picture nominee. And unfortunately to me, it doesn't meet those standards of a film. It would have been perfectly fine without all of those accolades. I think it would have been a nice surprise watch, a decent watch. It's a decent film, but not Best Picture worthy. And because of that, I'm a little bit harsher on this film than what I probably would have been if it hadn't have gotten all of these nominations. As a score, I do like the movie. I think it's a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a solid film. I think it's easy to recommend. The messaging is really nice and unique. I just wish it had gotten to go a little bit further with it and do some more interesting things with that concept, because it is fascinating and the subject matter is just thought-provoking enough to really grip you. And as I said, I just wanted a little bit more from it. The performances, definitely the highlight, as I mentioned. Fantastic. The whole ensemble, fantastic. But as an awards player, unfortunately, I just don't think it meets that standard. Anyway, those are my thoughts towards American Fiction. Let me know what you think about this film in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.